Yo, ACC, baseball, etc. Another edition. I'm Darren Vaught. If you are watching on YouTube, you probably see the man to my right or left. I don't know how your screen is splitting. Either way, you're like, hey, that's not Danny Graves. Danny is, I say vacationing. Roddy Jones kind enough to fill in for Danny this week. Danny has the kiddos at Disneyland, Disney World. Which one?
I believe it's World if he's in Florida. I think that's the World. It's the World.
Okay, I believe he's Disney World. You would know. You're part of the dad life. Have you done Disney with the kids or no? They're younger than Danny's.
So my kids are 5 and under. We've got 3 that are 5 and under. And I refuse to go at a time where it is going to cost a significant amount and they're not going to remember it. So to me, it's very much a balancing act of cost per memory. And if they have one memory and I spend a lot of money, that's a very high cost per memory. Yeah. But if they're old enough to make a lot of memories and you spend a lot of money, then obviously they get spread out and it's just more worth your trip. So cost per memory is what I go for. We are approaching the age of break-even point where dad is willing to go to Disney.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. 5+ for all 3 would make sense to me, right? You catch them all between like 5 and 10. I think that might be the sweet spot.
That's the sweet spot. Which the youngest, I think we may end up going like this year or next year. And if we do go, the youngest is getting left at home. She's 1, so she just won't make it the whole day. Like she can't hang. She needs to learn how to hang.
Yeah.
And then 2, it is just a hassle to tote a 1-year-old around. So that has nothing to do with her memories because I don't think we have to pay to get her in, but it has everything to do with convenience.
Yeah. And your enjoyment of the days that will already be sort of built for their enjoyment. Right. So exactly. You're just trying to mitigate.
We'll have to catch up with Danny afterwards on how they did it the best and like the tips and tricks for doing it. Because it can be a little tricky to navigate Disney, especially during spring break.
Yeah, for sure. And he'll be back next week, same as usual. You know, maybe we'll have Roddy on as a guest at some point and they can talk dad things together. That'd be I don't know if that would be of interest to any of our listeners. I don't have the numbers, the analytics on that, how many of our listeners are dads, but no, good to see you. I know you have some ACC baseball on your schedule. It's sort of your off season from a football perspective, but you're getting back into it with ACC play starting. I know you had Notre Dame, Georgia Tech this past weekend, some pretty non-competitive games. That goes for the both of us. I was at East Carolina where the Pirates had their way with Liberty. So general impressions from the weekend, at least it was not totally one-sided in the series that you had, right? Notre Dame got a big win. Georgia Tech got a big win as part of the doubleheader.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend coming out of it because I think it's sort of you see what you want to see with both of these teams, Georgia Tech and Notre Dame, coming out of it. Like on the Georgia Tech side, you get a series win in the ACC. That is a good thing. You had another excellent pitching performance and really overall performance from Jackson Finley. That was a good thing. Dawson Brown was better on Friday. Again, another good thing. You got healthier. Drew Compton back in the lineup. He played in the midweek, but back in the lineup. We had a Jaden Jackson sighting as a pinch hitter on Saturday. Christian Campbell started all 3 games and started one of them in the field as well. He DH'd maybe 2 of them. Yeah, I think he started both games on Saturday in the field, which is, again, a good thing, a guy that a lot was expected of for Georgia Tech coming in. And yet you saw some warts. You know, the bullpen wasn't great, especially in the game that they got absolutely blown out. So there's still some questions there. And for Notre Dame, the good 9 hits on Friday. They had 16 hits in game 2 on Saturday, 7 extra base hits, which they come into the game, into the weekend with 5 home runs, didn't have a single extra base hit on Friday. They hit 3 home runs on Saturday in game 3. So the bats started to wake up, and it's the guys that you'd expect. You know, Ziska's back in the lineup. Coetzee and Preisner hit this weekend. Like the guys that had gotten off the slower starts that hadn't been hitting started to hit. And that, I think, was something that Sean Stifler is counting on, and it started to happen. And that was in the game they lost on Friday and the second game on Saturday. So if I was both teams, I'd walk out of it like semi-encouraged with the understanding that you got to get better to win a lot in this league. But I do think it's two teams that will have some, sort of silver lining coming out of the weekend.
Yeah, there are two teams that interest me sort of from the onset of the season. With Notre Dame, obviously the coaching change, but a lot of guys from a pretty successful team back from a season ago, including some of the names that you mentioned there. For Georgia Tech, with me, it's always been that bullpen, right? And then sort of knowing what you're going to get out of a starting rotation.
Right.
A lot of lineup pieces I like. Jake DeLeo got off to that scorching start to the season. I love Stephen Reed and Drew Compton. Those two can mash when they're right. So it was never an issue of will they hit for Georgia Tech. I was more interested to see what we're going to get. And Dawson Brown seems like he's sort of filling out to be the Friday ace that they've thought he could be the past few years. Those are a couple of teams that I think, look, we started the season with our 7 in the preseason top 25. Florida State has jumped into that mix as well, right? But there are going to be sort of fringe teams. And I think Notre Dame and Georgia Tech have a chance to be pretty good, whatever that means, right there somewhere on the fringe, if not emerging into that top grouping by some point.
Yeah, the on the Georgia Tech side, I think a lot of the questions for Georgia Tech are going to come on the mound, and some of it is battling with injury. They've got a couple of pitchers still out. Logan McGuire looks like he's going to be out for. They're not really sure how much longer, but the reports around were that it was not progressing quickly in the right direction. So who knows how long he's going to be out. So from a weekend starter standpoint, it seems like Jackson Finley, who in talking to Danny Hall, it didn't seem like he had a lot of appetite from moving him from Sunday. I would guess that he continues to be either Saturday or Sunday, just so you can play him in the field the other 2 games and then you pitch him on Sunday.
Yeah.
I think he's going to end up being the best arm consistently. Dawson Brown, his stuff was great on Saturday. On Friday. Sinker was sinking. The fastball was tailing. And when he's like that, and he's getting a lot of ground balls, which you got a ton of ground balls. Notre Dame had some seeing eye singles. That is really good Dawson Brown. And then you have to rely on the offense to sort of carry on their side, which I think they can. They're still trying to figure it out. Stephen Reed was in a massive cold streak. And then those pieces that they're trying to get going a little bit are still sort of figuring it out. Jack Rubenstein behind the plate has I think exceeded expectations early in the year. Like they thought he'd be solid. A guy who was formerly a catcher at Emory in D3 and now is, following the likes of Joey Bart, Kyle McCann, Kevin Parada, and now Jack Rubenstein at catcher. Like that's a hell of a progression for Rubenstein to follow. But he's been really good, man. And he's sort of a heart and soul type guy. He's been a good receiver behind the plate, and they're thin there, to be honest. So I think I think Georgia Tech, you can see the path to them being good, and most of it comes to the arms. For Notre Dame, their bullpen has been excellent. I mean, fantastic. The lefties that they can roll at you. How long does Sean Stifler stick with the opener sort of role? Does he find a guy that can stretch it out a little bit? Because I think you may have to see them, if he can't, you may have to see them punt on a game here and there when the starter gives up, 6 in the first 2 innings. But that being said, there's a lot of reason for optimism around this lineup because they've got young guys at the bottom of it, but some experience. So I'm with you, man. Like they're interesting. Now the emergence of like a Boston College takes out room for some of these mid-tier teams.
Yeah.
But both of those teams, I mean, Georgia Tech goes to Louisville and Notre Dame goes to Wake Forest this weekend. Like both of those teams are going to have to, bring it this weekend if they're going to continue the positive vibes, if you will.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm glad you mentioned BC for a couple of reasons in terms of the fringe teams that could emerge into this upper echelon. They were the next ones I was going to mention. And we also have their head coach, Mike Gambino, dropping by with us here in a little bit. Really looking forward to talking with him. My understanding is we are catching him about 12 or so hours since he returned home. So that's, who knows what we're going to get. It should be fun.
Yeah.
Mike's always fun to talk to, so I have no doubts he'll be tuned in, he'll be focused and locked in. It's just we might be getting a less than well-rested version of him, understandably so. But they went to Knoxville, beat Tennessee last week. After that, Danny and I sort of fluidly planned for this show. After that, I sort of sent the eyeballs emoji to Gravy via text and was like, if they get the series against Virginia Tech, let's get Gambino on. Let's talk to him. Also, they were in the midst of what turned out to be a program record 10 straight wins. They're at 12-2 on the year. That's a program best in the history of Boston College baseball. Who's to say they're not a top 3 to 5 team in the ACC by the time it's all said and done? And that's just what makes this league so great. I mean, there are compelling teams, if not especially good teams, all throughout. And every week we've got someone new to talk about, right? And we had the start of conference play. You mentioned Louisville. They didn't start conference play, so this coming weekend will be their first ACC series. But UNC and Virginia, a couple of ranked teams, went at it, and somebody's got to get 2 of the 3. It happened to be the Cavaliers. It's such a compelling, interesting conference in a number of ways. I know you and I talked a lot in the preseason just about who we expect to be good, who's going to take some time, who might require more than the year to become what they're trying to become. At this point, beginning of conference play, what of that has changed? Like, how are you gauging everything from top to bottom?
To be honest, I'm not sure a lot of it has changed. I will say my opinion on Boston College is probably the one that's been the most swayed, because I wasn't sure about Boston College. The injuries that they had last year, play a lot of young guys. You're relying on the emergence of some young players who struggled a little bit last year. You mix that with a pitching staff that I think was needed to show that it could be consistent. So I saw the upside for Boston College. A lot of that, kind of was around Travis Honeyman and some of these older guys that they got back. And I think the impressive thing for Boston College is Honeyman has been very good, not great. He certainly will be great at some point this year. I have zero doubt about that. Like, that dude is going to be fine. Yet and still, they are 12-2, as you said. They found ways to win games. And there are a number of pieces in that lineup that you would expect to get going, even if some of the pieces that are going really well cool down. That I think this is a thing that Boston College is going to be a really good baseball team. And now, whereas I probably didn't see them as a team that made the postseason or was going to be close in the discussion, I think this is a team that certainly can at this point in time, the way they are constructed. So I think they're certainly there. Florida State coming into the year, I thought Link Jarrett would be an excellent addition. But I don't know that any of us saw them having the start to the year that they've had. But other than that, I think it's pretty much held, maybe not quite as I expected, but close. Virginia is probably a little further along than I thought they would be at this time of the year. I kind of expected Louisville to be great. Like, that's the team that I just can't quit right now. Yeah, and not that anybody would. Like, they were the pick to win the league. But coming into all of this, I'm like, look, man, Louisville is the darling that I'm going to go to the end with. And they have done nothing to dissuade that, especially with the wins that they've gotten over the course of the year in the non-conference, over the course of the beginning of the season. So I'm excited to see Louisville get into ACC play and play a team like Georgia Tech. Like, they are better than Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech can hit the baseball. Yeah. So if you have a bad day, Georgia Tech can make it a really bad day. So I'm interested to see them in that situation. And I think that as we are getting into conference play, and you can sort of normalize who teams are, whereas in the non-conference, you see the results and you're like, wait, how good is that team?
Yeah, like Wake, it's a little tough, yes. Right? And I had them not this past weekend, but the weekend before as part of one of these quad setups or 3-team setups that they hosted, and they had Ball State. Now,
Yeah.
Ball State preseason picked to win the MAC, had a really, really good year last year. That is a bona fide program. So it was like, okay, not an ACC team, but a good baseball team. I was curious to see how Wake fared, and they won it 7-4. They hit some home runs, obviously, 2 in that game, if I'm not mistaken. The first by Adam Cecere, but it took a couple innings because they faced a guy named Ryan Brown, who's a hard thrower for Ball State, a legit arm. And it took them maybe an inning or two to sort of catch on. And it sounds like the way I'm describing it, it sounds like they couldn't get a hit. I mean, they scored 7 runs, but that's just, with Wake, they had been accustomed to scoring between 15 and 20 in some games.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. I know people are skeptical of them playing at the couch so frequently, so early. Look, that hitting, we saw it last year with a lot of these guys. That hitting travels.
They're going to hit.
This is not a Coors Field situation. Wake Forest is going to rake no matter where they play. You don't even need to worry about that. Right. And in terms of, as for their pitching, I mean, that's one of the best rotations in the country. So it's justifiable that they've had the start to the season that they've had, and that they are ranked now up to 4th in the country, despite a couple of losses on the week for them. I mean, they're that good, but we needed to sort of see it. And Duke is a formidable start to their ACC schedule. They got the series from the Blue Devils, and now it's okay. We're in it. It's going to be ACC competition from here out.
And the other thing for Wake, first off, to your point that Wake's going to hit, like, it's not like it's guys that we've never heard of before that are all of a sudden waking for Rig because of the park. Like, when you got Brock Willikin hitting 1 million home runs, it's like, that's probably that's a thing that I can trust. Like, it's going to be fine. You're the guys that they have. If you're looking at Wake, I think one of the biggest reasons for even more encouragement than maybe you thought at the beginning is the fact that Rhett Lauder has set the bar really, 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 really high. And he has been very good, but he hasn't been like Rhett Lauder good yet. And at some point, he's going to be Rhett Lauder good. So then that's really scary, because you have to write off Friday night almost, unless you have somebody that can go pitch for pitch with him. And as the weather warms up and as he stretches out a little bit more, I think that is certainly going to come. Josh Hartle, it's almost made you forget the fact that Teddy McGraw has not been available, because Josh Hartle has been so good. Now we'll see if that continues down the stretch. I think with Hartle, it certainly will. But what happens if one day they don't, or one weekend they don't hit, and they have to, and they struggle from a starting pitching standpoint? And look, I am, you're sort of really nitpicking here, because you can say that about any team, but I think Wake Forest is a team that you can trust as much as anybody, even more than my beloved Louisville Cardinals at this point, because like the pitching is more proven. Louisville has a bunch of arms, but in terms of a guy that's going to go out there and shut you down from a starter standpoint, like, Wake's got those dudes.
Yeah, and as we get later into the ACC slate, you and I both know how your bullpen is able to perform is going to be maybe the most important thing universally toward your success in conference play. Well, look, man, if you get 3 starters going 6+ most weekends,
you mentioned Sean Sullivan.
I mean, he's had a tremendous year, right? So if you can get 5 or 6 innings out of 3 starters most weekends, which they probably will. 5 seems like the bare minimum, unless somebody gets absolutely shelled in a start for them. Then that goes a long way toward preserving arms for a bullpen. And that matters. When we get to the start of May, it matters a lot how many innings your first guys out of the pen have thrown this season. Because we saw it with North Carolina last year. First half of the season, great bullpen. Since then, nope. And it is a concern to this day, right? Spanning into the following year. It's a concern for them. So, yeah, that matters a lot. In the starting pitching, the rotation, the longevity that those guys have is going to be really, really important. Not just because of their success in those opening innings to games, but because of what it means, the greater implications for their bullpen.
If now look, everybody has to stay healthy, and that is the major caveat for every team always. But it feels like the floor for this Wake Forest team with the starting pitching that they have, it feels like at minimum they can be what NC State was the year they got COVID in the College World Series, where you had 3 starters that you knew were going to give you like 6 or 7, and then you had 2 bullpen arms that you just threw constantly.
Yeah.
And Elliott Avent got to the point where it was like, hey, we're down 7 in this one. We're going to punt. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to be great the next time out.
Yep.
And Wake Forest has more bullpen arms, more proven bullpen arms than that NC State team did. But that NC State team hit from 1 to 9. They pitched well, probably 8 times out of 10. You were getting a great start from one of those 3 starters. And then the 2 guys out of the bullpen were just locked down almost every single time. That was a 9 times out of 10 thing. And so I think if Wake Forest, even if you don't get multiples of arms out of the bullpen, I think at bare minimum you can be pitching wise what NC State was that year. And if you can hit, which I think they will, man, like it doesn't have to be a perfect team to be a very good one.
Yeah, no, that's well stated. We've got to get to more pressing matters, though. It's great nitty-gritty baseball talk. We've got more pressing matters because in the spirit of March Madness, Roddy, we are going to here on this show put together a bracket of the best uniforms in ACC baseball. I mentioned I was at East Carolina over the weekend.
Yep.
They debuted, if you've seen these, they're powder purples. That was they debuted them against Queens on Tuesday, I think, and then they came out with them in game 1 of the doubleheader on Saturday.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen them in person.
What do they look like in person?
They're gorgeous.
Oh
my God. They're beautiful. Roddy, they're beautiful. And I think this is how I spoke about them on our ESPN Plus broadcast. And I think it's this perspective that makes them work. If you're not sold on them, you can go at ECU Baseball on Twitter, by the way, or just pull up the ECU Baseball site on their athletics page. There are photos of these uniforms in case you have not seen them. Think of it in the way that other teams are going back to the old school powder blues.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're smart at ECU to refer to these as the powder purples because it sort of invokes those same thoughts. Obviously ECU is not going to use like a Carolina blue to do powder blues, right? That's one of their biggest non-conference rivals. They're not going to do that.
Right.
It is capturing sort of a trendy old school thing in a way that literally no one else has done it before.
Yeah.
I love that.
They look incredible, man.
They're beautiful. They are beautiful uniforms, and they use that light purple for the pants too, which you and I have had this conversation before. I tend to be a bit traditional with pants colors. I like, white or gray. I just think it's a good look with a colored uniform. But these, I'm sold. I saw them in person, called a full game with them wearing these. I'm sold. They're beautiful. So I told you coming out of that, I had the need to talk uniforms. And what better way than to prepare a bracket, okay? So we need some parameters for our ACC uniforms bracket. I don't know what we're going to do in terms of a number of uniforms on this list because 14 teams does not.
I feel like we either have to go to 12 and have a bye. We could go to 8, but I feel like that's unfair. Or we go to 16, which means 2 teams get multiple unis.
We could go to 16. We could
get there.
We could. I feel like 12 with buys is a little less ambitious and sort of more in our wheelhouse here. Although then it's like, okay, what uniforms get buys? What are the criteria for that?
Yeah, that's a good point. That would be a carte blanche decision by us. That we would have to say, okay, if it's a pinstripe, it doesn't get a buy. Pinstripe's got to fight your way through because everybody's got a pinstripe.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, that's a good caveat. Maybe we can get some more of those ground rules as we go. When I mention this idea to you, what uniforms come to mind?
The Notre Dame greens were the first ones that came to mind.
Yeah.
You go Notre Dame greens with those gold helmets. I mean, come on, man. Not only is it unique, but they have played so well in green the last 2 years.
Yeah.
That maybe that clouds my judgment slightly. But and then seeing the gold, like anytime you see the gold helmets, you just
the chrome domes. You just gotta
I mean, you gotta pay homage. Wiley Ballard did the game with me on, I can't remember which one he did, but he said one of the top 2 or 3 helmets in all of college baseball. I said, dude, I can't think of 2 or 3 that are even close. Maybe 1 or 2. but the Notre Dame greens were the first ones that came to mind. To me. What was your initial thought with them?
My initial thought, and we've got some clear recent biases here, because you had Notre Dame over the weekend. Although I think you're pretty keen on those uniforms, anyways. I think that probably would have come to mind.
And I do not mind. I do not mind in college baseball the monochrome look, which is going to come into this at some point.
It is. First ones to my brain, and there are a couple here that I feel very strongly about. The very first ones, the Carolina Blues for UNC.
See, I love the Carolina Blues, but it is not my favorite Carolina uniform. I love the Carolina white vests. That's my favorite.
I buy that. I
think it's the best vest in the league. I think it's because you get the Carolina blue undershirt, but I almost went Carolina Blues as well.
That they were the first one. I do like the vests. However, the second thought that I had, pinstripe vests, Virginia Tech, with the maroon sleeves.
Who's your favorite? That's a good call. Which brings us to who's your favorite pinstripe in the league? Because everybody's got a pinstripe.
I think it's that one. I do have another pinstripe on my list here.
Do you? I cannot wait to hear.
They debuted it, I believe, last season.
Okay.
Duke's white with the blue pinstripe and the script with the blue cap and the block D. It is such a clean look.
It really is.
Such a clean look. I think that's got to be on.
You could have your own pinstripe bracket, to be honest, because I think NC State's pinstripes are fantastic. Those are great. But it's cheating a little bit because the red just pops. It's just kind of like the blue.
Kind of like the blue with Duke, yeah. It's the same thing, right? Like we're not saying the same thing about Wake Forest's pinstripes, which is a very clean, good look.
I love that look, but it's very simple.
Yeah, the black stripes, it just doesn't pop as much. Yeah. Miami, the orange V-necks. We got those. Come on. That might be a number 1 seed.
The orange, I like the greens too. I like both of them. So I think I would go with the orange with you because it's so unique. It could be a number 1 seed for sure.
I do struggle. I will say that's a little atypical for me to enjoy that uniform as much as I do, because I do struggle with cap, jersey, pants when they are 3 colors.
3 different colors.
Yeah.
Because they go green lids with the orange.
Lids with the orange and then the white pants. It's
Miami pulls it off. I
enjoy that, but they pull it off really, really well.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. This one is in your wheelhouse. I got to get a thought on this, and I will defer to you in terms of which Georgia Tech uniforms we do or do not. I'm using a parentheses around my S, which ones we do or do not include.
Right.
They debuted these a couple of years ago. You and I were on the call when the Sunday that they did it, their Sunday golds.
Yeah. Not my favorite. Not my favorite of the redesign. I prefer the whites with the old school Tech and the block T. That one I prefer more. Although for a lot of people, the golds have grown on them. The golds limit you, in my opinion. It's one of those I don't like it monochrome. I love the Friday whites though. I love what they did with the whites, with the block tee. That one's my favorite Tech uniform. But if you feel, they also have the Tech gray pinstripes are very solid as well. But I think they obviously they only wear those on the road. But I am a big fan of those as well. But if you really like the golds, I will allow it. I would not have allowed it last year, but I will allow it.
I do feel like you mentioned NC State. They've got the all reds that they use,
which I love
because of the buzziness and the newness with them. I almost feel obligated to include those and the golds for Georgia Tech in our list here.
That's fair. We haven't talked about this one, and it might be my absolute favorite in the entire conference. I think it's a number 1 overall seed. Or maybe not number 1 overall.
Yeah,
but
we might not have but one. We might not have but one seed. I don't know.
That's true. It's Louisville's All Blacks. I love the All Blacks for Louisville,
and I think this is the case. That's the only black uniform I have on my list.
Is it really?
Which is a surprise, right?
I also like NC State's blacks, but they go black, white. And I can't remember the color of the hat. I think they go red cap with that, but I'm not sure.
They have a white cap that they've used with.
Do they go white with that?
White cap with a red bill.
So, but NC State's blacks I like as well. But if we're gonna put one black uni, it's the All Blacks of Louisville.
Yeah.
First off, the audacity to wear those when they get hot, like that is hot. That is hot. Right. That is hot, especially on the turf. But I think it screams Louisville baseball as much as anything at this point to me.
Yeah.
Although they do have the Starburst ones that they break out every once in a while too. I like those too.
Oh, you know what?
Those are good.
If we do 16, Louisville might find themselves with 2 uniforms on this. Yeah, they might. I like both of those.
Yeah.
How do we feel about? I've got a few on here we haven't mentioned. How do we feel about Florida State? What's their best look?
Super classic. I like the maroons.
I do too, because it's got just the one chest logo, the FSU there.
Yep. And you go with it on a Friday night, throw it out there, like it's K time. Like that's what that screams to me. Friday night, Florida State baseball. You're taking an L. That's what the Maroons really feel like to me.
Yeah, that's the one that I wrote down as well.
Yep.
And they've got their version of the golds, right? But I think it's got to be the burgundy maroon. I don't know what they technically call it.
It's garnet. Sorry, the garnet.
The garnet. That's it. Garnet.
I apologize to all Florida State fans. I got excited. I know it's not maroon. It's garnet. My bad.
I just said 2 words that were not correct. So like, you're in the clear. All right.
Boston College on the brain.
So the garnet's there. That's good. You know what I really, really like? And as I was sort of surveying the league, I was like, I did not expect to be as passionate about this one. Pitt's all whites.
Oh, the all whites.
Pitt's all whites with just the P, the P on the chest.
Yeah, old school P.
That's clean. Their blues are really good too, right? They got the script with the yellow Pitt across the chest. I could vibe with either of those choices for Pitt. And maybe the blue is there for its novelty, because we don't really have a blue uniform of that shade. I could go with either of those. I could be talked into either being included.
I would not fight you on either one. When you get the script Pitt like that, that's it for me. And the blues have that. But I do like the cleanliness of the whites. I like a good clean white, and that's a good clean white.
And they pinstripe it too. I think they've got both.
Yeah,
and it's the same, basically the same uniform. One is white without the stripes. One is pinstriped. And not that the pinstripe's not a good look. They pull off the solid white really well with the piping on the pants.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's honestly like you design a uniform. You're like, yeah, that's a perfect baseball uniform. That one's pretty damn close.
It is. All right. Just rattling through what I've got left here. Clemson purple. white cap, white pant, just
Purple. Let's go.
chef's kiss.
Honestly, I feel similarly about the orange cap, orange jersey, white pant, but the purple just pops. And it's, again, there's some novelty to it. It's just a very, very solid uniform. And I like it when they break out the purple in anything. I think they should do it more often in football too, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, I get it. The purple is crisp. It's good.
If they go purple cap, do you change your tune there? If they go purple?
I love the white caps. I take maybe a half point off, but the white caps at Clemson is just such a classic look.
Yeah. When they go purple, white, I like that too.
That's a good look.
I think that's a really good look for them too.
It is. We really, it's an embarrassment of riches. Like,
it really is.
ACC teams, if you're listening, like you look good.
You know who we haven't mentioned yet, because they don't do anything fancy, but they look good no matter what. Virginia. We haven't talked about Virginia because, I'm not gonna lie, sorry Virginia fans, it's a little boring. It's pretty traditional. Maybe that's a better way to describe it. It's more traditional.
It's traditional. They've got their navy with the script. They've got the orange,
which I believe has the script as well.
Yeah, the script also.
And then the white.
Kind of, they've got their
script.
They've just kind of got like their base looks, and it's a really good look. But that's interesting. That everybody else kind of gets adventurous with at least one, it seems.
Yeah. We haven't talked you mentioned the Virginia Tech vest as well, the pinstripe vest, which is a great look, especially with the socks.
I think it's top 2 or 3.
Especially with the socks.
You roll up the pants, up the pants and show the socks with that pinstripe look. That's one of the best looks in the league.
I could not agree with you more. But
all right, so how are we going to build this? I think that hashes everything out, right? We're not missing.
I think so. I don't think we're missing anybody.
I do think it would be nice to have everyone represented.
Okay, let's do that.
So therefore,
we got to go 16. Or are you going to go 14 with a double bye, 2 double buys, 2 single buys?
What do you? I don't even. How would I even draw that? Are you going to handle that, Roddy Brackets? Are you going to?
No. Well, I'll try. I'll try and sketch it out right now.
Do it. Yeah, if you've got the way to do it there, we do need it of record. I dropped my pen. Hold on.
Very good. I can already tell you that this is not going to go well. So
with the buys, let's do 16.
With the double buys, I think 16 is the way to go.
I think 16 just simplifies it. We've got more than enough uniforms, and we gotta be quick about this, I guess. Okay. We mentioned BC. Mike Gambino is going to join us. Maybe we get his. I have some ideas, but it seems right if we've got the head coach on, we just use whatever uniform he wants.
We'll let him vote on it. Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Okay, so we'll save it. We will reserve a spot for BC. We will do. What's our number 1 seeds, or what 2 are?
So we're getting two number 1s,
right? Because we'll do 2 sides of 8.
Yep, that makes sense. I think the 1 seeds. Gosh, I can't even remember what we went with.
You mentioned Notre Dame Greens first.
I said Notre Dame Greens. I think Notre Dame Greens is a 1 seed. I think it's polarizing. It's going to be a polarizing 1 seed.
It is, but that's what makes it an iconic uniform. Is that people have their thoughts on it. I think. All right, if that's your pick,
that'll be my pick. You get one. Yeah, we should do this draft style.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, we each have a bracket, and we're doing it draft style. Got it. That's all right, here we go. We're solving things on the run. All right, so for your bracket, your number 1 is the Notre Dame Greens.
Yep.
I'm going Virginia Tech pinstripe vest.
Love that.
The number 1 seed.
It's only fair that you get the first pick of the number 2 seeds.
Okay. Give me Miami orange V-necks.
Okay. I'm going to go Louisville All Blacks.
That's good.
And then my 3 seed is going to be the Carolina white vest.
Oh, That's good. All right, so my 3 seed is going to be Clemson's Purples.
Love that. Love that.
All right,
for
I'm
you.
trying to scratch these off of my list as we take them.
I know.
This is great audio. Great.
All right, now you got a 4 seed pick now.
I've got a 4 seed pick.
Yep.
Oh man. Give me Florida State's Garnets.
Oh, dang it. All right, I was going to go with that one.
As I cross off FSU Burgundy on my notepad list here, knowing it's incorrect.
They're coming after you.
They are. They're going to. They're going to.
All right. So for my 4 seed, give me the I'll take the Pitt Blues.
Good. That's good.
And my 5 seed, I'll take the Georgia Tech Golds.
Okay, so you went with the Sunday Golds.
Yeah, it's more unique. I guess, you
Like
throw
I
a
said,
white jersey out there, and
I think because of the newness, we kind of have to pay some service to these.
I agree.
This is my 5 seed, correct?
Correct.
Give me the NC State Reds.
Okay.
Solid red, baby.
That's a steal as a 5 seed. That's a steal.
Right?
That's a steal. Have we decided which ones are going to be duplicates? Like which team gets multiples, or are we just going to leave it up?
I think we just draft, right?
All right, perfect.
This seems like the most
go.
organic way to do it.
Yeah, I love that.
All right. My 6 seed is going to be Duke's Pinstripe Whites.
Duke's Pennies. I like that. My 6 seed, I'm going to take a flyer and go whatever Mike Gambino picks for Boston College.
Oh, that's right. That's floating around here. Okay.
I'm going BC's mystery. I'm throwing it out there to see what lands. Like
that's a good potentially, that's a high risk, high reward pick right there.
It really is. And then my 7 seed.
So hold on, we also need to make sure we're getting everybody represented.
I know. I was trying to.
So we don't
Virginia's
have
left. We don't have Wake and Virginia.
Okay.
I think those are the last 2 of the 14.
I think so.
Because we haven't doubled up yet. So give me. I don't want Wake to be the final pick. My wife would crush me if they were the last pick to be represented.
Yeah, they did debut. They've got the script Demon Deacons across the white, the solid whites that they debuted this year.
Yeah.
I think I like their black jerseys with the white pinstripe pants.
I'm gonna go black with the pinstripe pants.
That's a good
7 seed for Wake.
That's
black with the pinstripes. That's a good jersey for a 7.
Yeah, it is.
All right, you're up. You got 2 picks, and then I got the last one.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go with the classic Virginia Navy.
Love that.
That's my 7. And for my 8, look at this. We're doubling up, and this is the steal of the draft, buddy. This is the steal of the draft. North Carolina's Carolina Blues as an 8. Give me that.
That is the steal of the draft. 1,000% the steal of the draft. Which I guess gives me the final pick. Was there one I was really hot on that didn't make it? I could just throw one out there that's like just completely wild and go like NC State, the camos.
They do love the camos. I did not include them on my list, knowing that they would. People love them. People love the camos.
Love the camos.
That's not a bad option for a doubling up.
A first round matchup between NC State's camos and Notre Dame's green is going to send people over the wall. But I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go Louisville Sunburst.
Oh, that's the pick of the draft.
I don't know. Carolina's Carolina Blues. That's really good. I almost went NC State pinstripe too because I am a big fan of their pinstripe.
Those are 2 8 seeds that
are going to do some damage.
Could have been ones, honestly. Just like
That's a tough draw for Carolina's the Carolina Blues.
Yeah,
Because the Virginia Tech vests are so good.
So clean. God, they're good. They're good. Okay, all right. So we got a bracket. Let's get to our guest this week, Mike Gambino, and we'll sort of fill it out, and we'll see what the one unknown jersey is, right?
Yep. Let's get it.
ACC baseball, etc. We are joined this week by Coach Mike Gambino, 12-2, Boston College's best start in program history. Big week for them in Knoxville, knocking out number 3 Tennessee at the time. I guess they were ranked, and then getting the series win against Virginia Tech. Mike, good to see you, man. How are things? I know you just got back from being on the road, so you got to be exhausted. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, we're a touch tired, but 10-day road trip, a touch tired, but also excited that as much as that road trip is a grind, it's also great time together. The closeness, the bonds, the brotherhood in our program is real, and it's something the guys care about. And like I said, we're tired for sure. We're coming off that road trip, but there's a really good feel with the boys right now.
Yeah, well, let me start there. Obviously, having been a player at Boston College, you've been around as a coach now for a while. This obviously you're not new to this. Team from the north has to go south toward the beginning of the season. You're not new at all to that, but it sounds like in that way you sort of see it as an advantage, or at least potentially as an advantage. What's it like on a year in, year out basis to coach around that circumstance?
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny that when I first got the job here, right, it was something, you had the Northeast, we had no facility, there was all of these things. There was no funding. You had all these things that people would say you can never win there because of, right? And I used to say all the time, kind of two things about it. One, the reasons why people say we can't win are going to be the reasons why we can. And then to slowly continue to build and chip away to get rid of some of those things of why you couldn't win, right? So on the facility side, it's been about getting the facilities built, the field and the Pete Frady Center to start eliminating some of those. But some of them are built in and we love. And, people say that, 5 straight weeks on the road, which is for the Northeast, it's what we do. It's not just us. Northeastern does it. Harvard does it. UConn does it. We all do it up here. But a lot of people look at that and say it just makes it too hard to win when you're not playing at home early in the year. A lot of people in our conference will say that. And again, we look at it as a reason why we can win it. One, there's an RPI advantage for playing on the road, but there's just also an advantage of getting used to the grind of road trips, playing in front of opposing crowds, having a bit of a schedule that's out of your control, right? You have more control over your home schedule than you do in somebody else's ballpark. And then that closeness, the time in the hotel, the time on the bus, it really brings a club together. And I believe it. And our guys believe it. And people around the country talk about, I don't think there's a lot of clubhouses and programs that have guys that are tight, but the family and the brotherhood in this, I believe it's tighter than anybody in the country. And I think that road trip, that spring break road trip is part of it.
Yeah. Coach, when you are able to get out on the road and have that closeness, what do you think you learn the most about your teams through these stretches, whether it be character, whether it be personality, whether it be what kind of cookies they like? What do you learn the most about your crew?
Well, you learn it all. I will tell you that. Yeah, what everybody's likes and dislikes and what everybody's, what aggravates everybody and what everybody's little, like you said, what type of cookie you like or what side you're going to order for dinner. Everybody knows everything about each other. But again, I think that's what makes it awesome. And then I think the thing for this ball club that we started talking about early on, and it's been something that we've just continued to talk about is, you can't always control your initial reaction to something, right? Your emotions get involved, you bring stuff with you, but you can't control your response, right? And it's what we talked about. I mean, literally get thumped open tonight at Pepperdine. And we had some times in that game opening night that we had some chances to score and we didn't. And we didn't quite react. We didn't respond as well as I would have liked. And that was kind of something we talked about all the way through. So what we're learning about this team is they're getting very good at controlling their response after whatever that initial reaction is, right? And you can see multiple times, whether this past weekend, Virginia Tech scored first each of the 2 games on Saturday. They thumped us on Friday. Against Tennessee, they kept coming back. Against Asheville, we had a big lead and they crept back in a little bit. And there was multiple times to have your initial reaction control what's coming forward. But we've done a really good job with our response.
Yeah, and I can vouch. You'll have to check the tape, or maybe you can get Brendan to do this for you. A couple of weeks ago, you guys had won 6 straight after dropping the loss to Pepperdine on opening day. And Danny Graves, who's normally with me, Roddy's filling in this week, but Danny and I were like, okay, there's something to what Coach Mike's got going on. What do you think is maybe the most important thing to the success of your team early on?
I think across the board on the mound, positionally, our bats, we're just kind of doing the simple things well, right? We're getting our 1-1-2. We're situationally hitting. We are making routine plays. I think that's kind of the thing. It's why it feels very repeatable, because you're not looking at it being like, oh my God, we're hitting 394 as a team. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or we're pitching at a 1-1-2. Like, I don't know how we're gonna keep doing it. Like, you don't see that. You know what I mean? We're making routine plays, and and even what you might say maybe good routines, like like a 1-2-3 is a routine double play when you work on it, but it doesn't happen all the time. We've turned a 1-2-3 to win the game. We've turned a 3-5-3. We turned a 1-5-3. We turned a 3-6-3 both this past weekend, of just like routines, but they're not easy routines. You know what I mean?
Right.
That you expect to make if you're going to win baseball games. But like I said, they're not easy plays. We had, I think it was the 7th against Virginia Tech the other day. We're up 1. Walk, Honeyman double, and then excuse me. Vachano goes deep fly ball, sack fly, move a runner. Patrick Roach comes up next, goes deep fly ball, move a runner. So you get 2nd and 3rd, nobody out, and you get 2 runs without a hit. So it's just like kind of the simple things that we're doing well. So it does feel repeatable. I don't mean we're gonna go, win 10 straight and 10 straight. But you feel like you're gonna have a chance to win every baseball game, no matter who you're playing. And teams that are going to beat us, hopefully, are going to have to do something. Virginia Tech on Friday night they hit 5-6 home runs. Like, yeah, that's going to happen, man. Somebody's going to go off, and then they'll get us. But I do feel like what this team is doing is repeatable.
Yeah, it's like you said, the things that you can control. You can control pounding the strike zone.
Yeah.
And if you're good, you'll get ahead in counts. You can control what happens when the ball rolls to you. So I am with you on that, Coach. And catching up with you before the season, talked about the fact that injuries are something that you dealt with last year and that you were getting guys back, including team captains. Peter Burns has been hitting really well for you. He's been playing well behind the plate for you. What is his return to the lineup meant from a leadership standpoint, being a 5th-year senior, and from a performance standpoint, and how has that helped this team?
So, yeah, you see what he's doing offensively, right? So those numbers are the numbers. And he's giving us great at-bats and quality at-bats. And he had I want to say the 4th inning on game 1 on Saturday, had like a 12-pitch, 2-strike at-bat for a walk. And it was kind of one of those, it's just a walk in the box score, but it was kind of a momentum changer for us.
Yeah.
It was a huge moment. So he has those things. And then, when you look at what he's doing around the edges of the strike zone, and how he's affecting games there, none of that goes in a box score, but we can see it with analytics nowadays. And then with what he's doing, how much time and effort he's spending with Adonis Guzman, who's catching once or twice a week right now, and he's going to be a superstar. But Pete, the direct leadership with Adonis, And then with the group, we dropped a pop-up, hard play, but it's got to be caught, with 1 out in the 9th, up 5 against Virginia Tech in game 2. So we're about to close out the second game. Man on first. So it went from like 2 outs, man on first, to 1 out, first and third. And you're up 5, but like with Virginia Tech's offense in that ballpark, up 5 feels like up 1 in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
And it was a pop-up. It wasn't an error, but it's a pop-up that should be caught. And as soon as, they bring the ball on, Pete goes, all right, here we go. And he brings everybody on the mound. And you could see everybody was like, we're good. And then Joey Ryan settles in and goes, punch out. And we can get on the bus. So, you have some of the stuff that's ending up in the box score, but you have a lot of stuff that's not. And Vince Amini is doing the same thing. And Henry Leak, Henry Leak has not been thrilled with his results, but we all believe he's going to be really, really good for us this year. But what he's doing from a leadership standpoint within the pitching staff, he's given us that similar feel.
To your point about this feeling replicable, I think one of the points we made a couple of weeks ago, Danny and I, when talking about your team, is like, well, Honeyman's been steady, but he hasn't really gotten the bat going the way that he can. It's not like he hit 10 bombs in the opening 2 weeks of the season, right? And I know you've got other guys in the lineup who are kind of the same way, right? What you're going to get from them, some familiar faces back. Is that just a matter of trusting those guys, right? And Honeyman's not moved from his place in the top of the order. It's not like he's really struggled. He just hasn't like caught total fire. How do you approach staying locked in on those guys and how you talk to them in situations like that?
Yeah, it's hard, and especially for someone like Trav, who, he did. I tell you this: if you saw him the doubleheader at Kennesaw, he legitimately took that game over offensively and defensively on the bases, and he can do that. But other than that, like you said, he's been fine, and he's been hammering baseballs. At one point last week, I had somebody, I forgot, a scout, grab me and said he was like top 2% of exit velocity this year with nothing to show for it. So he's been hammering baseball, and he was starting to get frustrated, like this game can do to you. Sometimes everybody's had those times that on the baseball field you're like, why did I choose this game? You know what I mean? It can mess with your head so bad. But we all know that he's in the conversation if you're talking about the top right-handed hitters in the country, Travis Honeyman's got to be in the conversation. And we have some great ones you see what Brock Wilkins is doing at Wake. I mean, there's guys in our conference that are awesome, but I think Travis belongs in that conversation with anybody. So there's not really any doubt with any of us that at the end of the year, when you pick up and look at what his numbers are, it's going to be what everybody expects it to be. But I think the other cool thing, what everybody here is talking about, everybody's just like, I just want to win, and whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. Put me where you want to put me. I don't care where I'm not going to, as a general rule, Travis Honeyman is not going to sacrifice bunt. And he was coming up in the spot the other day that with a guy on that would have, in some offenses or some guys could have been a potential bunt situation. I looked at him, I go, hey, I'm going to bunt with you right here. Just mess with him. He goes, I'll do whatever you want. And I'm like, I want you to double is what I want. And we both kind of laughed. Well, his initial response was like, yeah, if that's what I'm going to do, I'll do it. And I think that's kind of the cool feel. And obviously Joe Vitrano was not going early, and then he went a little bit for this past week, and we went a lot for this past week, but it's not the whole lineup doing it. Roshi hasn't started going yet. Nick Wang's been solid. Vin has been solid. Vince Amini has been solid. And I think we have some other guys that I think are going to be really good contributors. Parker Landwehr is still getting healthy, coming back from a back surgery. He's almost there, but I think we have another, potential power bat coming back to our lineup at some point as well.
Yeah. Well, one guy you didn't mention who has picked up some of the slack of the guys that haven't quite gotten going is Barry Walsh. a guy who's played a lot of ball for you. Defensively has been fantastic for you for a number of years, but offensively it just hasn't quite clicked. It seems like it's clicking now. What have you seen from him earlier this year?
I would say starting from a two-strike standpoint and working backwards, he's doing a really good job with two strikes, extending at bats, getting balls in play that in the past weren't always in play. And then with his speed, anything in play has got a chance to be hit, but he's also hitting them hard. So, what he's doing with two strikes is affecting everything. And then, he's starting to do some damage earlier in counts. It's just a consistency of contact and hard contact with him throughout the count has gone up. And it's given us, to have him, he's been going back and forth between leadoff and 9. When you have him 9, and then Cole Mercado, who's turned into a bit of an on-base machine as a freshman and can really, really run and steal bags. Those two guys in front of Joe and Travis and Joe and Patrick and, that group, it can be a bit scary if you got those guys on base in front of that group. So, yeah, Barry gives us a toughness and a grit, that we kind of all feed off of when he's in the lineup. Everybody knows how hard that kid's going to play. So what he's doing for us has been awesome.
Yeah. Coach, a couple final things, maybe a bit off the radar for you before we let you get on with your day. Roddy and I, in the spirit of March Madness, are putting together a bracket of the best baseball uniforms in the ACC. Now, since we've got you with us here today, I think it's only right, Roddy, that we defer to Mike in terms of which BC uniform to include into that. Do you have a preference or a favorite?
I tell you what, we have some classics in our conference in general, right? You have, Coach Martin made the sort of Florida State Sunday Golds somewhat iconic, right? And, Clemson's uniforms are Clemson's uniforms. And we have some great ones across our conference. I think what New Balance has done with our uniforms across the board is elite. What I would say is I would maybe hold off on making your bracket. We got a uniform, sort of a special uniform announcement coming out tonight.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I might hold up. Maybe leave that spot open for the uniform that we're going to announce tonight. Just maybe
okay.
Right. That's so. I think it'll be fun. I think you guys will like it. I think the announcement will be really cool. We're going to wear it for a weekend in a couple of weeks when Duke rolls into town. So we'll just give a little bit of a tease on that. I won't say what the uniform's for, but that weekend that Duke is here is a big weekend in Boston. So we've got in Boston in general. So we've got a uniform coming out for that, and the announcement's coming out tonight, I believe at 8:00. Don't quote me on the time, but so it'll be on our social tonight at 8:00.
I love it because there were a couple of uniforms that were in the running for you guys that I was going to mention to Darren, but now it's going to be BC TBD.
Yeah,
TBD. So we see this thing tonight.
Go with that. I do. I love the pinstripes. I love our golds. I think New Balance stuff is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But these are going to be. I think these are going to be elite. People are going to love these.
Okay, no, how perfect can the timing get there, Roddy? I'm excited to see whatever they got in store for these now. No, that's great stuff. I got one last thing. I'm curious. Obviously, you told us you got back at 3 a.m., Mike, so you haven't had a lot of time for things outside of coaching your own club. Have you gotten a chance to watch any of the World Baseball Classic? Your guy Sal playing pretty well for Team Italy at this point.
We have been following it. Sal's been playing great, and Blake Butera, who played for us, is the bench coach.
Yeah,
for the Italian team. So we have been following it. It's been something the guys have been talking about every morning, basically at breakfast on the trip, getting up because they've been playing kind of like at 6 a.m. 3 of their games are at 6 a.m. One of them was at night, but every morning when everybody wakes up, it's what's the team doing? Where are they? And when we got up on Sunday morning was when they won to move on, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I had a text message from the clubhouse with Sal and Blake and the gentleman who put that team together, who I've got to know pretty well. So the three of those guys from the clubhouse right after their win sent me a cool picture and text. So it's something that we're all following. We're all on board. Team Italy and get the hands going here. So we're all rooting. We're all rooting.
Is it a little conflicting? I mean, you have the last name Gambino, so I know it comes naturally. but is there a little bit of conflict there that you're rooting against your country a little bit? Like, what happens when the U.S. squares off with Team Italy?
Hey, I tell you, I mean, I love Team Italy, and yeah, I mean that's my heritage, and I will root for the Italian team. But I hate to say it, and I love Blake and I love Sal, but when we play USA, I mean, I'm going to be rooting for Team USA. I'm going to hope Blake, man, does a great job. I'm going to hope Sal gets 4 hits.
4 for 4.
But I can't. I love those guys, and I love that crew over there, and I will do anything I can to help the Italian national team. Can't win against America.
No.
America.
Oh, Mike, that's a great point to finish on. Mike Gambino, head coach of the Bird Ballers, the Eagles of Boston College, best start in program history. Coach, I've got you guys a little bit later in the season. You guys come to North Carolina. I'm doing that series, so I look forward to catching up again then. Really appreciate the time. Roddy's frozen on us. I hope we get him back for the remainder of this episode. But, Mike, good to see you. Congrats.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for talking about the boys. And honestly, thank you guys for everything you do for ACC and for ACC baseball. It's great. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We love doing it. So good to see you, Mike. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Thanks again, Mike Gambino, our guest. Really good start to the season for his BC Eagles. Roddy, you got anything else? We've got our brackets. We're going to put those out on social media. Okay. I am the one who runs those, so bear with me. It might take a minute. I might throw up a little bracket graphic on both Instagram and Twitter. We're on both of those at ACC BSB ETC. If you would like to follow, would like to find these brackets, we're going to put it to polls on Twitter. That is going to be the determining factor for advancement in these matchups, and we will crown a best uniform in the ACC by the time we're done. Roddy Brackets, appreciate your help putting the bracket to paper there. I'm excited to see what people think, because we obviously have our opinions about uniforms. I'm super anxious to see BC's mystery uniform that Gambino was talking about.
Right. And the little homage to the, said big for the city. That weekend's big for the city of Boston, not just for BC. What could that mean? I don't know. I'm feeling good about taking them as a 6 seed, taking a flyer on that 6 seed.
That was a savvy pick. I think it will ultimately be for you. So, no, this should be a lot of fun. ACC BSB ETC on both Twitter and Instagram to follow along with that. You've been great filling in. Maybe we'll do this again, right?
Hey, you and Danny do a fantastic job, but it was fun to catch up. I appreciate you letting me come in and spread the gospel of ACC baseball.
Yeah, for sure. We're happy to do it. Happy to have you. Maybe next time as a guest instead with both me and Danny here. We'll see. Best of luck to Danny figuring out the day's activities at Disney and navigating all of that. Hope we'll get a check in with him next week for sure. But Roddy, thanks again. I'm going to put these brackets up and we'll see what shakes out. But this has been ACC Baseball, etc. Reminder to subscribe, rate, review. We appreciate that. 5 stars only if you want to get your comments read on the show anyways. And why wouldn't you want that? So literally put anything there in the comments. As long as it's 5 stars, I'm going to read it. So friendly reminder to do that. He's Roddy Jones. I'm Darren Vaught. We'll see you next time.